Hello and welcome. The dangers of being a humanitarian worker in Afghanistan are becoming clearer with each death and casualty. But why are they now being seen as legitimate targets? Well, part of the answer lies with the increasing militarization of aid. The killing last month of a British aid worker in a remote part of the country reignited the debate over the uncomfortable relationship between foreign humanitarian assistance and military operations.
One of the things that's really changed in many of these environments is, if I compare to when I was working in Afghanistan in the mid-90s, is that you've got a profusion of actors on the ground, new people who've come into the environments, especially private companies.
Private commercial firms are mostly contracted by the government of the United States and other Western countries. They operate like paramilitary outfits, traveling with armed escorts and living in fortified compounds. The programs they implement aim to win the hearts and minds of the population.
As J.E. Olivach gain agus op with códaíana was na dúchan na níir, huad linda dríach dólanach le Development Alternatives International an Afghanistan. Farant de nochi cho díchilach sa vai, is díach ag frúsig den cóid gemal lua an na nachin imalach agus cúnartach.
Most of the areas where the project had been working were very difficult areas.
What I wish is that people could really see the projects that she was in charge of and see kind of how life-changing they were for communities, or they still are for communities. So it's probably 8,000 or 9,000 families that have irrigation that didn't have it before. And in Afghanistan, where everyone in these areas are subsistence farmers, the difference between having irrigation and not is either growing like rain-fed wheat, which is a subsistence crop, or something like vegetables or fruit, which increases your income 4 or 5 times. I mean, it's a really life-changing thing for these people.
Continuing tonight for a Scottish aid worker abducted at gunpoint in Afghanistan. The woman, whose identity has not been released, was kidnapped yesterday along with 3 Afghans after the convoy they were travelling in was attacked.
Boren noch alopanoch is truer local proch Afghanoch, van a vuyen hoor Americanoch DAI, I horstem Bruch and J.
The search is continuing tonight for a Scottish aid worker abducted at gunpoint in Afghanistan.
It is Jakecha in Afghanistan, groen vlianichen. Is vig Joe Isenchke in a Kunnerston in Leibshen.
I believe that she knew about the risks associated with her work and the difficult and remote areas that she was traveling to. And she would tell people that I'm not afraid of the security risks, because I believe that I'm doing some good work for these people. The people know about my work, and I see no reason that there will be a security risk associated with this, because I'm doing a good work.
As the conflict in Afghanistan continues, Western forces have incorporated aid work into their overall strategy, blurring the once clear distinction between military personnel and humanitarian workers, and creating an impression that they are now part of the US-led war. Well, this has made those doing developmental work targets of the Taliban, who say they've been co-opted by the military and are in essence, quote, humanitarian shields. But has aid become too politicized, and how can aid workers best serve the victims of war without being seen as legitimate targets? My guests are Médecins Sans Frontières representative in Afghanistan, Michael Hoffman. 2 emails, if I could put these to you, from our viewers. One from Salam Derson in India, who says, many counter-insurgency organizations are disguised as aid agencies with agendas which are far from humanitarian. And a similar sort of follow-up from Heidi Lady in the UK, who says the biggest risk to civilian aid workers occurs when military personnel pose as aid workers. How much do you find that to be on the ground? Of course, there is that blurring, but how does it complicate your work when this kind of thing happens? And how often do you get that to be the case?
Not so much the blurring from the military. The military have a military job to do and they will behave like military. I can accept that. And that of course they put all kind of other efforts in terms of relief and development into their strategy. Both sides are doing that. I mean, it's called a counter-insurgency because it counters an insurgency. And both of them are actually battling for the hearts and minds for the civilians. So you have in one village you have a clinic run by the international forces, another you have a clinic run by the Taliban, and that's fine. It's their war. It's not my business. Where it becomes dangerous is where a lot of people claim to be doing humanitarian assistance, which means that you are working independently from the warring parties, whilst in fact they are part of a development or counter-insurgency strategy. And one example is for instance this organization that the aid worker that was working for that recently was killed in Kunar. That's a private development organization who sign up to counter-insurgency contracts, whose compounds look like military compounds. And this is the blurring of the lines from the aid groups themselves that makes it difficult to work truly independently amidst a circus of people who are not being honest or genuine about their independence.